Jason from Trillium West here, and today I want to go over my initial reaction to the May 2021 stats report released by KWAR. It's been a wild year. There's been massive increases in prices across most of Southern Ontario, but the last month or so has been a really interesting one to watch unfold as we've seen supply creep up a little bit more, competition wane a little bit. So let's see how the numbers really unfolded for May. Let's get into it. So start with a little scroll down. First of all, big congrats here to Melody Walsh, Volunteer of the Year for KWAR. Big shout out to Melody. So the stats report here, I'm going to breeze through it a little bit. I've skimmed it, and there are a couple of main points I want to go over here. The strong home sales continued, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And there's been a record-setting number of monthly home sales. So as supply has continued to creep up, we've noticed that a lot of it continues to be eaten up as well by buyers, leading to a higher actual sale number month over month. That's not prices, that's number of transactions. Obviously, May last year was a very slow time for real estate across the world, really. But in KWAR, we did notice that. So seeing a big jump here, you're going to see some of these stats that are year over year are extremely skewed right now. But these ones on a shorter term scale, generally these trends with real estate, you don't really want to be looking month over month. Like real estate's a much larger picture than that. And generally we do look over years. But this year you got to take it with a grain of salt. So we might get a little bit more detail from the month over month. Here's Nicole dropping bombs. While last May home sales were restrained due to the pandemic, May 2021 was another extraordinary month of home buying and selling activity. Prior to 2020, the previous 10-year average number of sales for May was 656. So pretty big jump there over the 10-year average even. We're up to 854 now. Lots of transactions. There's still a lot of movement around, but I think one of the trends you're going to see here is that even though a lot of transactions were still taking place, the competition level wasn't nearly what we've seen going through the winter of 2021 here, or coming into 2021. This is where things are going to get interesting, and I'm curious to see how different news outlets run with this. So in May, the average sale price for all residential properties in KW was $740,000. It's a 30% increase over May 2020. We all know, even though May 2020 itself was a slow month, over the last year, prices have definitely gone up very quickly. That's not just in KW, that's most of Southern Ontario. But it does indicate a 2.4% decrease compared to last month. So this is one of the first times we're seeing this in property types, a decrease in average or median prices. It's going to be consistent with both here. Of 2%. So people who have been in the market have been really excited this year. If you already own a home, you've been seeing headlines of us going up 1 or 2% a month for the last 12 months or so. Now we're actually seeing the first decrease in quite some time. So the average detached home was 868, and that's a 32% increase from May 2020, and a decrease of 3.5% in the detached market. Average sale price for apartment style condos, $457. This is an increase. We're still seeing a strong increase in the condo market. Year over year, last April, May, June, pandemic going on, everyone was trying to get out of condos. But in the latter part of this year now, leading up to May, we've seen a lot more people comfortable with going back into that condo life. We've seen pretty big jumps there, and this is a good example of it, where detached actually decreased 3.5%. Condos are still tearing up, going 3% month over month here. Pretty incredible stuff. Average sale price for semi, $660. So again, when you're looking at semis versus townhouses, obviously townhouses are a much larger and broader. There are a lot more variables, I guess, with townhouses. So some townhouses have condo fees of $1,000 a month. Some are freehold, some are stacked. So they're actually a little bit more like apartment style condos. Townhouses are pretty wide, covers a wide range of property types and variables, where semis are freehold, they're generally pretty cookie cutter, and they've tended to be more desirable mainly because of the freehold aspect of it. That doesn't have condo fees. Generally, you have your own backyard, your own parking situation. And so generally they are a little more desirable. So There was a point in the last couple of years here where townhouses and semis were kind of neck and neck, but in the last little while, semis have really taken off. Again, I'm going to quote Nicole here. Last month, the market took a breath and calmed a bit, but there is still very strong demand throughout our region. This started prior to the new mortgage stress test that came into effect on June 1st, a couple days ago. If you don't know about that, shoot me a message. We should talk about it. While these changes will impact the affordability for some, I do not, again, speaking as Nicole, I do not expect it to be very impactful due to the sheer number of buyers in the market. And I have to agree with Nicole on this one. The mortgage stress test is a bit of a haphazard sort of attempt to cool the market. We saw this a couple of years ago. They introduced the stress test. Now they're increasing the essentially they're being more conservative with how they're testing people now, and that's fine. But realistically, I don't think that's going to sway as much as the powers that be make it seem like it's going to impact things. One thing that has been a conversation a lot lately, and the HPI is actually going to be something I'll go into another time in a bit more detail. But essentially, when you look at averages, you look at medians, it really doesn't give you as accurate, detailed information as you'd like. In 2021, we should be able to do far better analytics on actual trends in real estate, as opposed to the median price or the average price from 1 month to the next. And that's what the HPI is. It's a more complicated calculation, takes into consideration new home builds, how many properties are selling, what the trends have been in the past for those months in particular, things like that. And so the HPI is a number, and these are numbers that are becoming more common in conversation. And so when we look at the HPI benchmark prices for detached homes, they're actually calling 815 as sort of that benchmark price of where we really are at here, compared to the 868, which is what is actually being referenced here as our average price. I think as time goes on, we're going to see this HPI benchmark price actually, I suspect, move up in this in these stat reports. Because there's just a little more, they're a bit more conservative in where they value properties, and when you take into consideration more information, you should be able to get a more educated ballpark of what the data and trends are really showing. So the HPI is going to show a lot of the same thing. Main thing that's jumping out to me here as I look at it, again, we're looking at decrease on the whole month over month. If we continue to consume properties and buyers continue to eat up the supply and no new inventory was added, how long would we last? They're saying about 3 weeks of a month. So pretty scary stuff. Usually we like to see this a lot higher, but I imagine it's going to be several years now before this number jumps back up. There's such a supply issue right now. Buyers still have so much money at their disposal. People want to get into homes. They want to be owners. And we're seeing a lot of competition for that in Kitchener-Waterloo as a growing city. The average number of days to sell was 9 days compared to the 21 last May. Again, last May was a very an interesting time to be buying and selling. Some people were selling their properties conditional on a buyer viewing the property. And obviously that stuff has all kind of fallen back to the norm. We're seeing a lot of firm offers right away, a little bit more in the way of conditions and whatnot, but we're still seeing a property going on the MLS for about a week and then reviewing offers and having deposits dropped off and stuff the next day, bringing us to around our 9-day average. So nothing too surprising there. That's kind of where I suspect we'll be for quite a while now. And if you are looking for more details on this stuff, there's a lot of information on the KWAR website here, including graph breakdowns of everything they've got going on here. So I imagine now that as people start getting vaccinated, things start opening up, people might be able to start traveling. I suspect that after a year and a half here of the housing market being a huge talking point, I suspect we'll see a lot of things cool down a little bit. People take advantage of being able to go out, enjoy time with friends and family, and safely navigate the province again. We'll get used to rolling back into their work routines and stuff going into the fall. So I don't think we're going to see as much mayhem as we have seen in the last year or so now, but I've been proven wrong before on that front, but that's where I kind of sit on that. Overall, this is kind of a basic Coles Notes of the stats report. I'm going to chop this up a little bit into some small tidbits for socials and stuff, but interesting numbers. It'll be a cool one to see as we get to the end of June here and through the summer. I'm really excited to see where some of these numbers unfold as they align with the kind of closures and whatnot around the pandemic kind of moving and becoming a thing of the past. So thanks so much for tuning into this. Really appreciate you guys. And if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to touch base. See ya.